there. You are listening to the Trifecta, where UFOs, the paranormal, and cryptids collide. I am your host, Katie Paige. This is the official podcast of Rocky Mountain Ranch Research. I'm really happy that you're all here with me tonight. We are live, and I hope that your week has been filled with more wonder than worry. I know it's been kind of a stressful time out there, so I hope you're all hanging in there. Tonight we have a fantastic guest. We have good friend Dr. Simeon Hein. But before we get to our guest tonight, I just have a couple quick reminders. I would like to remind everybody that during the show, I will be asking 3 multiple choice questions, one on the UFOs, one on paranormal, and one on cryptids. And if you go to RockyMountainRanchResearch.org, you will get a free PDF if you get the answers correct, and you can collect them all as we go through. And in fact, I set up a new Patreon page, so I hope you guys can go to Rocky Mountain Ranch Research with Katie Paige Patreon, and there'll be there's 3 different levels that you can sign up for, and it really supports the work that we do here at Rocky Mountain Ranch Research. And all of those PDFs will be available on the Patreon as well. And eventually, I'm going to be adding some bonus footage with my guests and extra footage talking about behind the scenes at Rocky Mountain Ranch. So that is something new that you guys can go check out. Also, if you have any questions for our guest, Simeon, please put the questions in all uppercase so we know that they're questions, and we'll get them out to Simeon. So without further ado, I would love to welcome Dr. Simeon Hein to the Trifecta. How you doing, Simeon?
Hey, Katie. How's it going tonight? Thanks for having me here.
Oh, yeah, it's going good. I hope that you're having a good week so far. I hear you just got back from a trip.
Yeah, I went down to New Mexico for the IRVA RV conference, International Remote Viewing Association. And we had a real fun meeting for a couple days, a combination of lectures and RV practice, which is always fun, remote viewing. Resonant viewing. What was that?
Was that in Roswell?
No, that was in Cloudcroft, New Mexico, which is sort of this pretty well-established 100-year-old resort community just up from Alamogordo that seemed to have been founded for people with asthma and breathing issues 100 years ago because it's at 9,000 feet.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful up there, and we had the conference at the Cloudcroft Lodge. And it was we got to go out to Lynn Buchanan's RV ranch, which is way out in the middle of nowhere. It was fun finding it. We got lost, and it was fun meeting a lot of other RVers and just sharing information and communicating. And then on the way back, I had to stop at Roswell to go see the Roswell
There we go. Yeah,
I went to the Roswell.
You shared a few pictures, so
I did. I don't remember having been at that museum before. It opened in 1996, and anyone who's in that area, I really encourage everyone to go and take a look to ponder the real mystery of what happened in Roswell, Corona in 1947. They have all these great dioramas and pictures and information about the people that were involved. It's wall after wall. I couldn't see the whole thing even in 2 hours.
Yeah.
And really fascinating. And it just, Katie, for me, it just brought back all of the lectures from Stanton Friedman over the years, which I was fortunate to hear since 1997 or so. Till he passed, I think in 2019, and Don Schmidt's lectures, and it, being there on the streets and seeing the surrounding areas. The whole area was later turned into the 579th Bomb Group, which housed Atlas F missiles, and so it was one of the earlier nuclear missile sites, liquid fueled Atlas missiles, the Atlas F. Anyway, the history of it's fascinating, but it just has this haunted feeling because we really still don't know exactly what happened. Something big happened there. And, every time I research this, you learn a little bit more. But I
that's
mean,
true.
something really big happened, and to this day, we haven't been told what it was.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, this wouldn't continue on decade after decade after decade if it was a weather balloon or some silly other explanation like this. So it has a life of its own, and I believe, probably like you do, that's where the cover up just started out there at Roswell. Did you get a chance to see Don Schmidt?
I don't think he was there at the moment. I think he lives in the Midwest somewhere,
All
and
right.
he does visit the museum. He spends time there. I did go visit Corona, New Mexico,
Oh,
on the
interesting.
way down to Cloudcroft, coming down from Colorado, from Las Vegas, New Mexico, that direction. And see, the crash actually, at least if one of the crashes happened 6 miles to the southwest, I believe, of Corona, the little town of Corona. And I went into the museum, because you never know when you go into a museum what you could find. I learned this from Bigfoot research, is that a lot of museums, if you go in, will have some sort of reference to wild men, mountain devil something, which across the United States. But there was a woman that knew about the incidents and so forth, and she showed me where the bar was, where allegedly Mac Brazel went in a couple days afterwards and was told that there was a reward for someone who had pieces of a UFO. And this apparently stemmed from the Kenneth Arnold sighting a couple days before, right?
Yeah.
June 24th in Washington State, when he had his famous sighting of those 9 objects that I learned this time had a blue glow to them, a little bit like the Travis Walton crafts, and that is why Mac Brazel went in there. He learned of this. He started talking about it. I have heard that he had samples of the metals he found on the Foster Ranch that he handed out to people at the bar, who were all later visited by the Air Force and had to give every little tiniest piece, a little piece back of the mystery metal and the other strange metals that were there. But anyway, I could see where the bar was, and I'm going to put up a video about it on my YouTube channel when I have a moment, of the Corona Roswell visits here. But the bar was called the Road to Ruin, I was told by Sarah, the woman in the museum, and it's only open another couple of weeks. It closes on October 31st for the season.
Like for good? It's closing for good?
For the season. They close in the winter.
Okay.
And it was a great museum. I mean, just like ancient history of, towns like that, what they were like 120 years ago, these frontier towns. But she showed me where the bar was. It's now a laundromat, but it was just amazing to stand at that location. And it doesn't look all that different, except for all the windmills that have gone up in the area.
Yeah. It's like a memo went out in 1947 that's like, the crazy people of Earth are building nuclear weapons, and so we are going to check it out and see what's going on. I mean, there's the Kingman crash, and so many in 1947, the beginning of it all. And of course, Roswell's the most well-known, Aztec, and so many others. Some are controversial, some are not. But if you ever have doubts if this phenomenon is real, go visit one of these either archives or museums like in Roswell, and it quickly, you kind of snap out of it and go, oh yeah. There's definitely something going on here, and it's been going on for a very long time. So you've been involved, Simeon, in this for quite a while, it sounds like. What got you started?
I had this sighting with my mom in the Everglades in 1973 or so. And, she passed on last August, about a year ago. And I've been cleaning up the house, and I found all sorts of slides that I haven't had time to go through yet. And there was the slides of the Everglade visit. And I'm wondering if she captured something in those slides that she was photographing that I've never seen. When you go through your parents' home, you may find a bag on the floor that's in the back of the closet, and it's just a mother load of slides and photographs. And I found several of these. All the way going back to when my mom was only 11 days old. Someone told me she hadn't been able to find this. You have to go through the house, and you find, things get on top of things. They just get lost, and, you want to go through slowly. I found what says is the Everglades visit and a whole bunch of photos and slides, even 16 millimeter film. So I need to slowly go through all of this. It could be maybe nothing's on there, but we did see something up in the sky, and it was strange looking. It was green, it was round, it had dots on the bottom, and it was hovering until it started moving. We had binoculars. And it was weird feeling. I still remember the feeling. It didn't feel like it belonged here. It just felt alien. It just had that vibe. It just kind of, you know. So I think that's what got me interested. And then, of course, remote viewing in '96. After I got my PhD and assistant professor teaching statistics, I just got involved in remote viewing just out of pure curiosity. Who knows how these things happen? And it kind of opened doors to all these different topics.
Right. I think we talked about that at the Snippy event. We lost both our mothers right around within a month of each other. So there's the Snippy hat.
That was last year, right?
Yeah,
it was last year.
Exactly. Yeah, we're like, they're up hanging out. My mom sang, and so I think they're up there, you know, they got to meet each other. So yeah, that's tough. But I know that process, and you never know. I'm a big advocate for going back and looking at old evidence. So I hope you'll have to keep us posted if you find any anomalies in that footage, because we found some stuff in the Snippy case. We're like, what's that in the background?
Yes. Well, your Snippy book is excellent, by the way. I would encourage everyone to go onto Amazon or wherever it's sold and get a copy of your Snippy, the horse book, because I've been reading through it. And it's extremely informative. It just has a lot of witnesses, and it fills in, like my trip to Roswell just got back today. Your book fills in the tone, the ambience of that area at the time. You know what I'm talking about? Because you have all these witnesses and the sightings they're having of these orbs and balls of light and other, could be craft. We don't know, but it creates a background for the Snippy event, which shows that unexplained animal death didn't happen in a vacuum. There are things going on, and it's usually that case. So I would encourage people to read.
Well, and that's a good lead into some of your books here, Dark Matter Monsters. And right here has a question. Has anyone remote viewed dark energy or dark matter? But I want to talk to you, around the Snippy. I'll let you answer that in just 1 second. But the Snippy case had a strange footprint, only 2. They didn't want it to get out to the media, but it wasn't a Sasquatch. But can you talk a little bit about this book and answer the question there from Ray on that, if you've ever remote viewed the dark matter and dark energy? And I know you've been just posted a recent video on that very topic.
Yeah. So Katie, I've been teaching remote viewing in Boulder since 1997.
Wow.
And I have met a lot of native Coloradans. And over time, some of them told me of their Bigfoot encounters.
Oh.
And it slowly sunk into me that this was something that mattered. And it wasn't just a rare North American wood ape, like some of the academics from the 80s and 90s. And we know Jeff Meldrum just passed away a couple weeks ago. Yeah. We're sorry to hear that, from Idaho State University. But academics like Jeff and Grover Krantz, that was above me in WSU when I was in Pullman, Washington, in the anthropology department. I mean, they had this view as just a biological entity, and, maybe some type of rare North indigenous ape to North America, so it didn't really catch my attention because it just seemed like a rare animal, kind of like the ivory-billed woodpecker or something like this. I mean, my mom was a bird watcher. There's nothing wrong with being fascinated by rare animals, but talking to my RV students who told me of their encounters, it didn't fit that model. It just didn't. Their encounters are all really strange. And when I went to the Bailey Sasquatch Outpost Conference, the America-Russia Conference, I think it was in 2020 or something like this, 2021. Yeah, right around the COVID time, and Igor Burtsev was there from Russia, and Don Monroe, and all these other researchers. Everything they described about Bigfoot was really strange. It didn't fit anything that I was expecting. I mean, electromagnetic effects,
Right.
invisibility, footprints that end in the middle of nowhere and they should continue on muddy ground, vanishing in front of witnesses' eyes, telepathic contact before, physical, visual contact, braiding of horses.
Hey,
What ape goes around and braids horses' manes,
Yeah.
So the more I looked into it, the more I was really surprised that the symptoms of what witnesses describe around Bigfoot seemed similar to what we had encountered around crop circles, which was strange electromagnetic effects, some time loss. Yeah, I wrote about it in Opening Minds.
Mhm.
Something about the electromagnetic field was different. And this is what we found around some Bigfoot sightings. Of course, Katie, this also goes with UFO sightings, cars stalling, people having missing time, and just strange events afterwards, seeing shadow people around your home, feeling that your home is haunted after a UFO encounter. Then I finally started looking at Stan Gordon's book. I had this book for a long time, Silent Invasion. I figured I might as well open it up. And there was all of the same sort of ideas, just reinforcing that Bailey conference of that it's not easy to compartmentalize these Bigfoot sightings. Yeah, you could call it some sort of North American wood ape, but you're not describing everything the witnesses are perceiving. So it got me thinking what sort of physics would be involved with type life forms that can turn invisible, that seemingly can glide across the ground. And interestingly enough, generate orbs or be associated with orbs right in their vicinity. So it all to me pointed to types of physics that we normally don't explore, and dark matter is definitely a big candidate. In other words, dark matter is something we know outnumbers ordinary matter like 5-1. But isn't it logical just to say, Katie, that why wouldn't there be life forms that are made of this? It's not literally dark, it's transparent. It's invisible matter. But isn't that what witnesses describe around Bigfoot and other types of cryptids, many of which we don't, even have names for?
Even with the paranormal, like something's there that we can't see, but we know it's there. And so are you suggesting then there are actual life forms that are just constantly around us, invisible in this dark matter?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to scare people, but that's the only conclusion.
Too late.
Too late. Yeah, I think that's what this all points to, is that there are life forms that can, interact with that type of matter and, have a lot of its qualities, which would make them transparent much of the time. And yet that's what witnesses I've met at conferences and events where I've spoken have told me they've literally seen. They say that they saw the Bigfoot become semi-transparent or transparent, or just have the faintest outline, or like sparkle a little bit. One witness said it was like a digitization. I said, I mean, like pixelation. She said, yeah, her dog saw it too. It just sort of pixelated out right in front of her eyes.
That's
but we've
so
heard
crazy
this.
that you see that. The elk hunter who just had a sighting describes when he kills elk in the Rocky Mountain, Elbert County, is like seeing pixelization in the eyes just go like you're shutting down a computer. What does that mean?
Well, he says that around elk.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that there's aspects of life we don't completely see. And in the Bigfoot case, it's not because they're shutting down. They seem to be changing into another state, in the Stan Gordon books, Creepy Cryptids, Silent Invasion, and other encounters. When people have shot at them, they disappear many times in a flash of light.
Yeah.
As if you pop the bubble, So it just suggests that they have another form. And when they show up, maybe it's like ghosts with fur, because and I'm not saying every case is like that, Katie. You and I know witnesses. You see them; they just look 3D solid, like you and me, but like a different species, like a caveman or ape or something in between. We don't totally know.
Yeah, I want to ask you if you have any theories on why certain people can see, ghosts or cryptids or UFOs more commonly than others. Is there something to that? But before you answer that, let's ask that first UFO multiple choice question. Again, you go to RockyMountainRanchResearch.org with your answer. So the question is, what year did the Rendlesham Forest UFO incident occur in the UK? Was it 1980, 1965, or 1977? My favorite decade, the 70s. Okay, so why do you think, Simeon, that why do you think certain people can see these? Is there something electromagnetic, perhaps?
Right.
Or
No, that's a great question, Katie. This has to do with our perception, goes back to RV. And by the way, to answer that RV question, we haven't directly viewed dark matter, dark energy. I mean, it's something for a future project. But what we perceive as real is what our senses pick up. And that's just a very narrow range of the electromagnetic spectrum. We can't see X-rays. We can't see microwaves, right? We know these are all, we can't see radio waves. Initially, when radio was invented, people thought it was like, a hoax or something, because you can't see it. You can't see magnetism. So our senses are limited to a narrow range, mostly in the visible light spectrum. We can feel infrared as heat, right? And so we don't really easily accept that there's anything real beyond what we ordinarily perceive. And as examples I just mentioned, people didn't even believe it with radio waves or electromagnetism. Even temperature was considered, an imponderable, because you can't see these things. Yeah. But there are people who can see a wider range of frequencies. It's called blind sight. And at the RV conference, we had a presentation from the Psy Games, which was held last year. I think it was in Charlottesville, Virginia, if I'm not mistaken. Or was it Charlotte, North Carolina? One of the Charlottes out there. They're going to have it again next year. And they have people there who have these special abilities. And there was a woman that we saw a video of at the RV conference that could stack, with a huge blindfold on, could stack colored little rings, perfectly sort them by color without seeing them. She could even name colors at a distance. And they have ways of measuring to show that no light's getting into the blindfold area. So she can perceive color through her fingers, through her hands.
Do you think that information is just like, because we hear of these stories, great inventors throughout the years, where, somebody will think of it in the UK and somebody in the US, they didn't know of each other, and boom, the idea's there, as if it's just floating around in the ethers and people are pulling it out of maybe this dark energy, this invisible information highway that we can tap into if we really work hard enough to do so, just like we see signs and symbols. Is that the same kind of thing that they're doing with remote viewing or the Psy Games and like these nonverbal autistic kids? Are they able to read whatever this information flow is?
Right. Well, we know from RV there is another channel of information that we're not conscious of that you can pick up, that you're picking up through your body mind, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And a lot of this research comes out of Soviet Union, now Russia. A lot of it was classified in the U.S. The U.S. was late in the game getting involved in these areas. I mean, they only got involved. The Department of Defense only got involved with this because they had to, because the Russians and the Chinese were already doing it, and they felt like there was going to be a psychic Cold War and they were going to lose. So they started their own program. But it's pretty clear from the Russian research, like Dr. Alexander Parkhomov, into relic neutrinos. These are neutrinos that are all created, some way back in history after the so-called Big Bang, sometime in that period. And they're all quantum coherent. They're monochromatic because they all have the same frequency, the same temperature, and they're all around us. They're around us right now. That would be one. So it's a type of dark matter. They don't react to us electromagnetically, but they react gravitationally, and they can form a condensate. Parkhomov showed they can affect plant growth. and all sorts of chemical experiments. They can accelerate or decelerate chemical reactions based on the time of year, because they're coming from the cosmos and the position of the Earth relative to the Milky Way effects, how many of these relative neutrinos we get. That would be one candidate, Katie, for a type of particle that could be a carrier for this type of information, because they're already all quantum entangled together. And that could be like a quantum radio. It's not, if you don't understand this, folks, this is not your fault. This has not been researched very much in the US. And if it has, it was an OSAP or ATIP or Kona Blue, which never got funded, but was supposed to be an extension of OSAP, right? That declassified program. You can see the budget proposal for 20 million for more remote viewing. And they had electromagnetic tests, all this good stuff, never got funded. But so we're not really that well versed in these subjects, apart from some of us who spend time researching it. But the research has been done in other countries. If it's done here, it's classified, and I'm not aware of the results. But yeah, that's what we're talking about, Katie, is another information channel that you can't see, that we know from the RV data. And we had some good examples, by the way, of some of these military cases where they located planes and all sorts of stuff just using viewing. Nothing else. Amazing cases. We know it can work, so it has to come from some channel we can't see.
Right. So Doc from Wizardly, what do you know specifically about the Chinese and remote viewing?
Well, there's a great book, China's Super Psychics or something like that, by Paul Dong and Raphael, I think is the other name. They had, I think, 5 institutes in China devoted towards psychic research. At one point, because it's a communist country, they could just go around and give tests to everybody in a way that you would need special permission in the US to do such a thing. Now with, human experimentation protocols, you can't just go around and experiment on people like was done in the past. With all these experiments, we learned that the intelligence agencies didn't tell anybody about. Yeah, thanks. They could still do something like that, but they would identify talented teenagers and things. That's in China's Super Psychics book. So yeah, there was one guy there who apparently could go invisible, and the police could never give him a ticket because he would just speed all he wanted, and then he would have the ticket disappear in their hands or something like this. He was just there back when they went to the car, their ticket version of would disappear. So there has been research in other countries. Yeah,
that's an interesting question. Do you mentioned the Chinese, specifically looked at teenagers. Are children and teenagers studied in remote viewing? And Ray has a good point here. Yeah, it stopped progressing in 1974, he believes, and there is a hidden science the masses are not allowed to know. Do you believe that's
guys,
true?
We're in the freaking Stone Ages. But I mean, don't worry, it'll catch up. It's how reality works. It'll catch up, because reality is a way of catching up with you. You all know this, right?
Yeah.
So the science will catch up, and telekinesis. We'll get to that in a sec. Yeah, I have witnessed this. It was a shock. But yes, we don't have a lot of information. If those of you watching right now say, well, how come I don't know about this? It's been held back here. Look, the Soviet Union collapsed. East Bloc collapsed starting in 89, East Germany, Soviet Union a couple of years later, right? The scientists that worked in those classified programs like the KGB I think KGB had many institutes devoted towards this sort of research. They called it psychotronics. They wanted to weaponize it.
Ooh.
Yeah. When the Soviet Union collapsed, these scientists didn't feel afraid anymore to violate their security agreements and share it with all of us. Yeah. But that's never happened in the US. And I've spoken to people who signed these NDAs related to programs like this. They're not talking yet. Maybe they will at some point. We don't want them to violate their NDAs or endanger any sort of national security. But I mean, there is a need for the public to know where the tax money's been going, what research we've been doing. It's got to be some sort of balance in between.
Yeah. If they're going to get protection for whistleblowers, certainly folks should be included in that. Yeah.
Right. We've seen these congressional hearings. I thought the last one a couple of weeks ago was pretty good. They had some pretty good witnesses there. Saw these triangular craft and all that weird stuff. And they were like, yeah, this is something that people in sociology, we call this hidden events. People experience this somewhere in their lives. Relatives, friends have experiences. The phone rings. Someone who's already passed on is giving you a message. People have experienced these sorts of things, and they seldom talk about it. So yeah, there's been research in other countries into these areas. I think now, Katie, they call it psionics. It's a new name, but it's all the same thing. There's a type of resonance, in my view, and I'm happy to be shown another point of view, that interacts with dark matter and other states of matter that we normally don't see, but our intention can coordinate this matter and use it as like a telephone, like an intergalactic telephone line.
Yeah.
And we can receive information. And even, this telekinesis question. Now, I got to go to Japan 5 times. I was working for this publishing company in Tokyo teaching RV. And one time this surgeon in my class said, there's this guy that can do real PK not far from Nagasaki. We should go visit him on your day off. So we went down there, and it was the place where his wife made lunch for like maybe 10, 15 people. And then he did a show afterwards, which he didn't charge for, but you had to pay for the lunch. And he did a whole variety of like taking glass and just like turning it into like a liquid, like bending spoons and levitating yen notes. He took one of my watches and he said, okay, I might break it. And I said, okay. He put his hands on top of it and he made the hands move around without touching the crown. Wow. Exactly the number of minutes he wanted. But one of the most amazing things he did, which Jules is pointing out here in the comments, is he was levitating a cigarette above his hand. I'm about 15 feet away. He's behind a counter. My mind is somewhat skeptical, like any modern person. I'm thinking maybe there's a wire.
Magic, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because you never know. Some sort of magic. Magicians can be good. They can do things that, and I'm not sure if I'm being fooled, but somehow it's like, it felt like he read my mind, because all of a sudden he stared at me, right, like this, looked at me, and the cigarette went flying in my direction like a torpedo. Made a right angle turn and ended up in my open shirt pocket like that. From 15 feet. I still have the cigarette. And there's no magnets in there. It was the real deal. So what sort of particle is involved? Their energy, where you could take something admittedly lightweight. We're not talking about a rock, cigarette, yen note, and levitate it, and then use mind intent, chi energy, something like this, to precisely push it in the air, fly it. I don't know what word to use. Make it move.
You controlled it to go to your pocket.
Into a pocket. That is some real, is it the relic neutrinos? Is it chi? Something like that. It seems to fit the whole pattern of that these phenomena are connected. In other words, as we're getting from the questions here, that PK is related to RV, is related to other types of, physics. Is it quantum physics? It's some sort of non-locality. Is it thermodynamic? Whatever it is, it's another type of electromagnetics, because it seems to also to short out batteries and cameras and things when you're around it. And that's the story I had with PK, since Ray asked it and Jules wanted me to, she knows some of these stories. So it's when you see this, you never can quite go back to where you were thinking that these are just stories, because you're wondering for the rest of your life, Katie, how did he do that? Can anybody do this? I asked him later, the surgeon took me back. It said, oh, this is Simeon from the US. He said he practiced for 10 years before he could do this. It took 10 years of daily practice, like a musical instrument or a martial art, and eventually he's able to do that. And one final thing he did, Katie, he said, I'm going to show you something. And he I rolled up my sleeve and he ran his hand this far from my arm. And it was like pins and needles in the bone, deep in there.
Oh, I wonder if he's a good healer. Does he heal people?
He did. He said, I do this at the hospital to heal people. But it felt like electricity, like he was projecting.
Did the hair stand up on him? Woo!
Yeah, it was like getting pinpricks.
Wow.
And Tesla described this near his pulse discharge devices feeling. These, I think, are like little cold, we call them cold neutrinos because they're slow relative to, things from the sun. Cold, I think they're projected biologically, a type of neutrino, and it's so small it just penetrates into your arm. I mean, it's not on the surface. We're talking in the arm. Tesla described this. I can only imagine it's the same thing, which is exciting. We're dealing with like sort of fundamentally the same types of principles here. If we could figure this out, folks, we would have access to new types of energy and information and positive psychic functioning based on, principles, because it's all the same thing, whether it's coming from Tesla or this guy near Nagasaki or other folks.
I have my Tesla glass. I'm like,
your Tesla glass.
It's Dr. Simeon. I'm getting my Tesla glass. What practice did he do, and can we learn it? Ray wants to know.
He said he started by imagining he could change how insects were walking on the ground as a kid.
Really?
Yeah. And he'd give them command, walk left, walk right, and like kind of guide them. And no, he said he wasn't born this way. It took 10 years of practice, which is a long time.
That suggests that he's communicating with the insects and that. I mean, there's a lot of people who say that they can communicate with animals or, telepathically read what they're feeling or thinking. So, wow, that's amazing.
Let me tell you something. There was this wonderful woman named Bevy Yeagers who passed on a few years ago, who ran the U.S. Psi Squad in St. Louis. And she told us, it was at the first RV conference in 1999 in Ruidoso, New Mexico, where I met her. And she would be at the RV conferences every year. She had a group and they would do practical psychic tasks for missing persons, police, and so forth. And they worked on many, many cases. And she said she wasn't born this way. She was born in a family of Irish policemen, and they would have drowned her at birth if they knew she was naturally psychic. And she wasn't. She learned this by going with Ingo Swann to the Soviet Union when there were a couple trips over there to meet the Soviet psychics like Nina Kaligina and others who were in the Soviet psychic program. They had their own psychic RV program. Some of them were naturals, but Bevy said she wasn't. She got good at this from practice. So to answer the question here, some people are born this way. I would say like Ingo Swann, Pat Price, and others who just seem to have this natural ability to see non-local information, project information. Ingo started out by doing something like PK in City University in New York before he became an RVer and worked in Palo Alto with Hal Putoff and Russ Targ. But other people, Bevy and others, you get better at it by just practice, just like you would with an instrument. So it's kind of both ways, but we don't know very much about it. I think we're afraid of it in Western society. We associate it with witchcraft and superstition. I just think it's some fundamental type of chi energy. I've been involved with Tai Chi, since college, and those sort of, mind body practices where you imagine the chi energy and projecting and so forth. I think it's there. If it's a relic neutrino, cold, it's some type of energy particle. We haven't done a lot of research about it in the US for some reason, but maybe, we've all heard of that the podcast telepathy tapes and things. Maybe there's more awareness of it now that there are people with abilities. Some of them have mental challenges and other sorts of, disabilities that makes them stronger in other ways.
Right. Yeah, for sure. That makes sense to me. I'm going to pop out the two last multiple choice questions, and then we're going to switch gears because I want to kind of go down a different path with you and get your thoughts on some things. But the paranormal question is, the Winchester Mystery House in California is said to be haunted because of what unusual feature? The endless staircases, the moving furniture, or talking portraits? Again, put your answers at RockyMountainRanchResearch.org podcast, and you can put your answers there, and I'll send you a free PDF as my way of saying thank you for watching. The cryptid question is, which U.S. state is most famous for sightings of the Mothman? Is it West Virginia, Oregon, or Kentucky? Good luck, guys. Oh, Simeon knows. So I have a question, and we're going to kind of switch gears here because
sure.
I know a couple years in a row now we've gotten to hang out at the Snippy event, and animal mutilations in general. I know in your presentation you mentioned ball energy, and same. This goes for both animal mutilations and crop circles.
Right.
Can there be an energetic or ball lightning kind of component to these? And if so, what are your thoughts on this?
No, it's a great question. And, a lot of these phenomena that you're interested in, the audience is interested in, you get these same symptoms and characteristics no matter where it is or exactly what it is. You get this sudden cooling, chill effect, right?
Mhm.
The sudden silence.
Yes.
Sometimes the area starts to look darker, like
Mhm.
things are absorbing light. We've heard this around cryptids and Bigfoot, where they seem to be darker than the background, as if blurriness, right?
Ooh.
I just heard an example of this in Cloudcroft, which we can talk about another time. Someone who hasn't publicly shared this, but they said the creature looked blurry, which Stan Gordon has mentioned. And we get orbs and ball lightning in these areas, whether it's the area you spent some time in, Elbert County, Rocky Mountain Ranch, as a teenager, if I'm not mistaken, or Marley Woods in Missouri, or any one of these, a Bradshaw Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
You get these same sort of effects, and it suggests that we're dealing with another state of matter, which maybe our senses are not really good at making sense of. But yeah, ball lightning, what we're talking about is quantum coherent matter, where the particles are intercorrelated in the same way that flocks of birds can fly with the murmurations. They seem to be like a wave of birds or fish, right? It's not one leader. They're all following. They all seem to be kind of interconnected. We're talking about that state of matter, and ball lightning orbs, earth lights, seem to be in that category, that type of matter. It's a state of matter past plasma is by far the most common type of ionized glowing gases. That's the most common type of matter in the universe. But when those glowing gases have their own sort of confinement field or kind of own coherency, that's what we call the fifth state of matter.
Okay.
And that seems to be, to me, Katie, the basis of a lot of these phenomena and ball lightning, orbs, earth lights.
Right. And can they cause ill effects like physical effects to humans as well? And what are some of those effects?
Right. I mentioned this at the Snippy conference last August, just a couple of weeks ago, really. There are cases of these orbs and ball lightning injuring, even killing people, livestock, animals. It just depends sort of what mood it's in. I mean, in a sense of like, where is it going energetically? Is it like collapsing, or is it pulling in energy, or it can be explosive at the end? And it has the power of something like 10 hand grenades, an orb. So you don't want to be around it if it's about to blow up. I'm just telling folks. It can be dangerous. People have all sorts of encounters with ball lightning orbs, Katie. And I know I'm putting them in the same category just because David Freiberger from DOE, Stanford Linear Accelerator Center, wrote a paper about ball lightning. He says it's a type of magnetically compressed energy akin to like electricity, but kind of the other quadrant. We don't understand very much about that type of magnetism. It's based on a kind of vortex type of magnetic energy. He called it the Vorton type particle, and it can scale up or down, in size. It can do different things. Sometimes it can be destructive. Sometimes it's harmless. Sometimes, people are around it and it blows up and just knocks them over. Sometimes it can cause internal organ damage. It is known for instantaneous exsanguination, which means evaporating any liquids it comes in contact with instantly, including blood.
Oh, there goes the blood. Yeah, the blood
Just
drain.
it's going to be gone. It's not hot. It's cool to the touch, but it has so much concentrated electromagnetic energy that, like a microwave, it can instantaneously heat things up. And this is why you need to be careful around it. But having said that, there are people who've been around it where it doesn't do anything. You can go online and just look for encounters of ball lightning. Go to my websites. I mean, there are links to some of these public sites where people post their accounts of it.
Right. Does it make any sound?
Yes, it can make different sounds. There can be humming sounds. There can be whistling sounds. Sometimes it's silent, but sometimes it makes some sound and you can kind of hear it coming towards you. I mean, it's very eerie sometimes. Because I have to be honest, I'm not trying to use reductionism here, Katie, to say we've totally explained this, because there are aspects of it that seem like it's conscious. Sometimes, I mean, it almost seems like a life form in and of itself, or a bridge to life forms awareness, because sometimes it seems to follow people. The conventional explanation, Katie, would be, well, it's following static gradients, like the way it goes down the aisle of a plane. If it comes in through the fuselage or the cockpit, and it goes down the aisle, the scientific explanation would be, well, it's kind of following the static gradient of the aisle and the chairs. But I mean, sometimes I've talked to people, they said it seemed like it was following them. It's really strange. And we had that case from Skinwalker Ranch where it was playing with dogs. Remember the dogs that ended up kind of evaporating?
Right. I'm asking too if it makes a sound, because I mean, I've done it, and maybe some of the people watching or listening have done this as well. But you have that, I guess, psionics or the vibrations where you put like sand in a pan and then you vibrate. Is that explanation account for some of these crop circles, perhaps?
Right. That is a good explanation for ball lightning right there, is that cymatic, what we call solitons. These are kind of stationary energy waves. In other words, the energy is radiating in a way that gives it a kind of stability while it's active, and like an energy cluster with a standing wave. It's standing because it almost looks like it's standing still, and it forms a coherent pattern. But yeah, some of the crop circles could have been formed that way. They go back hundreds of years, so who's to say? I have seen ball lightning around crop circles. I haven't seen any of them make crop circles, but I mean, in Opening Mind, somewhere in there's a picture of one of these tourists who photographed one while we were right nearby. Let me see if I can just pull it up. And oh yeah, here it is. So we were on Woodborough Hill. I was out there with Stephen Greer and Ron Russell. Do you see that little dot there?
Hold on. How do I get you to go up there? No. Oh,
yeah. Do you see the little dot?
Yeah.
That,
all right, I can't figure that out.
It was over that crop circle there that was made by Koch and Kaiberg. These were German researchers who, like in this case, paid the farmer to make some, just as a way of communicating with the larger intelligence and the universe. One of their friends was coming to visit us there, and he just stopped and saw this and took a picture. And I've seen this too in the UK, where they're just floating in the sky. I saw one come up from the ground. There were two of us there, so I know I wasn't hallucinating. We both saw something that looked like a blue grapefruit emerge from the ground, almost like, the color of your gas stove, but in a ball. And it almost looked like it had like a thread, like it was coming up from the ground, and it was just gone again. So I've seen it a couple times. And it's not flame. It's cool. It'd be cool. It actually causes cooling in the area. So it's really counterintuitive, a very strange type of matter that seems to be present in a lot of paranormal phenomena.
Wow. Are there different meanings to that? Because I've in fact I've seen it once, but a blue orb. Are there different meanings to the different colors? People report all different colors of these orbs.
That probably has something to do with the frequency of the orb. I mean, a lot of them, the one I saw was blue. The one up in the sky over West Overton, I had a researcher, Matt Williams, in the UK, take a look at the video footage. This is a while ago. He was able to stabilize it and slow it down. And what we could see was different colors. With each frame, it was flashing different, like really fast. So it seems they do have different, they're seeing all different colors. Ted Phillips at Marley Ranch in Missouri called them the ambers. So maybe Katie has something to do with the minerals in the soil, the electrochemistry of the area, something like that. It could be something else, but that's my first guess.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know there's been different theories about the different colors, anything from, ill intentions to healing powers, but it makes more sense that it's more scientifically based than that, perhaps.
We don't totally know. I wouldn't say the blue ones are all dangerous or anything, but they do have different colors. It's just fascinating. People have seen them change colors in their homes when they show up. Yeah.
Right. Have you ever had, other than the one with your mother back in 1973, have you had a close encounter with a UFO, an entity, or anything like that? A paranormal story, anything like that that's really impacted you further?
I wrote about in Opening Minds that there was two encounters. One was when I was camping with a group of teenagers back in the 70s at Green River State Park in Utah. And I had a weird time slip where I felt like I was out of my body for a second, then I was back. We were around a campfire, and then I saw something that just looked like a very tall reptile, and the other people disappeared. It looked like a huge, big reptile, and I didn't know about these things at age 15. Believe me, I had never heard anything about reptile. I had read John Keel's book Mothman Prophecies. There's nothing about reptiles in there as far as I know. So this was not far away, and it talked. I heard it, and it was like another reality layered on top of our reality. That the kids, other campers, were gone for a couple seconds, and me and this thing were there. It didn't feel frightening or anything. It just was weird. And then it's like another, there was the crack between the worlds, like Don Juan and Castaneda. They talked about the crack between them. Well, this was horizontal. I saw a flash, and there was this reptile there. Well, I'm describing it that way. So that was one, and then it was gone again. What was that? I don't know. I thought maybe it was like food poisoning or something. It's parallel reality. Then I described in Opening Minds this kind of seen an orb. This is back in 96 when I was still learning RV, and the orb kind of was, I thought, am I seeing this? Is it, illusion of being in the dark, whatever. And then I had this dream of being on a spaceship over the earth. And I was given this instruction how to teach remote viewing, how to create a business in Colorado. They showed me this map, and they said, we need a little more work in this area where you are. So we highly suggest that you do this. You don't have to, but and they were really very serious and very straightforward.
And you listen to them, which is cool.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have done it without. As they left, I had this dream like I was flying over the earth, 50 miles up. It was an incredible sensation.
Wow.
Like being in a ship looking down, something like that. Just that feeling of being high up over the earth and seeing it below. Anyway, that was the dream. Was it a dream? Was it a real encounter? Who knows? But here we are all these years later, and I followed the instruction. I was fine.
Right. This is a great book. You redesigned the cover. I have the old one and the new one.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so that book, Katie, I encountered over the years. So I had so many encounters with witnesses from government programs, from aerospace industry, who told me stories at conferences and so forth. Many of them said, don't repeat this. So it took some effort to convince them, say, I can change your name, put it in a book, to get permission to put their stories in there.
So you added them to the new one.
Yeah. So in the second edition, I added some new stories, including Gary, who worked at Minot Air Force Base in North Dakota as a missile security guard, seen UFO UAP right by a missile silo that took off vertically and jets were scrambled.
Wow.
He was even offered crash retrieval assignments. And I asked him several times, these were not broken arrow, crashed experimental planes, missing planes. This was, he said, he was told by people who came back, they were remote areas in the US and Canada, retrieving craft. They were 6-month assignments to recover crashed craft. And I also had the story of a computer engineer from Silicon Valley who told me in no uncertain terms that he had been asked to reverse engineer a piece of a hull, which when he looked at it under electron microscope said it was 1,000 years ahead of our technology, made of isotopes that you don't even find in our solar system. He said, I said, you thought it was a UFO? He goes, no, I mean, this was definitely something from somewhere else. And the closeness spacing of the atoms, the way they were engineered, he goes, we can't even manufacture things atom by atom. It was a highly advanced technology, said, that modified the quantum field directly, and that was the propulsion system. And he estimated that the craft was probably 150 feet across if his section 3 feet had that curvature, So that story is in the new edition too. Maybe someday I can, mention who it is, but
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that's the revised edition.
Wow,
Still, when I read these
amazing.
books, like some of these stories, like people have encountered, people don't often talk about this, Katie. They're just,
no, I know it's starting to change a little bit, but it's slow. It's slow. Gosh, this time has flown by with you. We only have a few minutes left with you, and I want to get to Ray's question here. It's a good question to end the show on, actually, and then I'm going to run through. I want you guys to really support Dr. Simeon Hein's work. Check out his Patreon, his YouTube, visit him on X, and I didn't even get to. I just have to put this picture up really quick before, but you can check out his music as well, because he's a very talented. You are a very talented musician.
Thanks.
Check out his music.
Streaming services. I play acoustic guitar, I sing, and any of your whatever, Spotify, Apple Music, whatever you use, I'm on there. Just put my name in, you'll see.
It's great music to listen to. But is there anything more advanced than RV that anyone can learn?
I'm sure there are more advanced practices. I like to use imagination in this way, to imagine that they're parallel versions of yourself in the future, and to focus more on the ones that you prefer. To see if, and we heard a lecture about this at the conference last weekend, by the way, kind of creating a loop between your future self and yourself now. I've taught a course in the past, maybe I'll do it again sometime, called Human Fusion, where you kind of identify yourself, something you want to get better at, and see how you're doing it in the future, very specifically, to see if you can bring some of that information back here right now to get some tips, right?
Yeah. And I do that in the Gateway tapes. The Gateway tapes kind of puts you out there where you're, So I don't know how advanced that is, but there's a lot of different little things you can do, the binaural beats and things like that. I'm sure, Simeon, you've done that. You do that as well. And, I want to mention too, and you can talk about the courses you give for remote viewing and how one goes about signing up for those. I think you go to your website here, which is crystalmind.com, and then there's a tab for your courses. So can you?
We have a monthly group.
Oh, a group.
Yeah, we have a monthly group. Anyone's welcome to join. Just meets once a month, and we do some sessions. It's very inexpensive, and anyone can join at any level. We have people who've gone through, my 3 levels of training, based on the Ingo Swann CRV system. But we have beginners in there too, and because everyone sort of has this ability somewhere. And if people want to be part of our monthly group, you're welcome. We do it on the second Sunday of every month. Jules, who's here in the chat, is part of our group. And you're welcome just to contact me if you'd like to give that a shot.
Yeah, and you can contact Simeon here at newcrystalmind.com. Please check his YouTube channel out at Fractal Friend, and make sure you subscribe. And you can find him on X right here at Simeon Hein, on X. Make sure you follow him there. And your mountbaldy.com. Love that. So, and please check out Dr. Simeon Hein's Patreon as well and support the work that you do. I can't thank you enough for being here, Simeon. It's fascinating. Like, time flies, and I always learn so much from you, and the work you do is just amazing, and you're teaching us all, and I really appreciate that. And I hope you'll come back here in the future so we continue this conversation. Again, thank you guys for being here tonight live. And next week we have Eric Hecker will be joining us next Wednesday night live. So we hope to see you back on the Trifecta next Wednesday. Until then, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week. And good night, Simeon. Thanks again for being here.
Talk soon, guys.
Oh, I got to push the button.